We welcome you to another LifeSpark Theater presentation feature entitled Meet Your Family. Today's feature picks up with Dr. Sweet making final preparations to transfer Shannon into a short-term care. It has now been 5 days since Shannon was rushed to the hospital after slitting her wrist. Since her admission to the emergency care, her parents have yet to show up to visit her. Shannon has recovered from her self-inflicted wounds and the blood is stabilized, but she remains in deep depression. It is obvious to all who attend her. We invite you to come join us now as we proceed deep into the human mind and discover the secrets of human enslavement. Perhaps you will find your own enslavement and the key to your healing. We remind you that all LifeSpark Theater presentations are lifted from actual case studies and files of people who came to someone that we worked with and received help for deep, troubling trauma and survival needs. The characters may be fictitious, of course, and the settings may be somewhat different than the actual settings of the case files, but the core issues for which they came and the treatments for which they received are indeed very real. Come join us now, and we will proceed deep into the human mind, and we hope you enjoy our feature presentation, Meet Your Family. Nurse, I would like to have some time with Shannon as soon as you complete taking her vital signs, please. Yes, Dr. Sweet. I am all done. Thank you very much. Please close the door behind you. Well, Shannon's been sort of in a semi-coma, but I really don't think that she's in one right now. I think the problem is she really doesn't want to talk to anyone. That is what depression does. It alienates you, takes you away from people, even makes you antagonistic towards them. These are the thoughts that Dr. Sweet had as he pulled the chair up beside the bed. Shannon, this is Dr. Sweet. You haven't spoken to me since you have been here, but I know there are times you are awake. So I'm going to go ahead and have a little conversation with you as if you're listening. And anytime you would like to join in, please feel free to. You're here because you tried to kill yourself. You know that. You tried to end your life. You slit your wrist very deeply and had lost quite a bit of blood on the bathroom floor by the time the emergency people arrived. Your mother was outside frantic, trying to get into you, and seemed to be very concerned about you. Shannon began to wrestle in the bed back and forth as if she was having trouble sleep, but she was awake. She flipped her head over very angrily towards me, the first encounter of our eyes that I'd had since she arrived. Her mouth drew up into a snarl, and she said, "Look, my mother doesn't care anything about me. Nothing. Do you understand? You know nothing about me. You know nothing about my mother, my father, or my home life. So don't presume to. And don't tell me that she cares. If she cared, perhaps I wouldn't be here." And she flipped her head back over to the other side. "Well, hello, Shannon. Nice to meet you. And thank you, too, for being here. It's pretty obvious you're angry at somebody. It's okay if you choose to be angry with me for right now. But you know, Shannon, when people are depressed and feel hopeless, they often blame somebody else. Now, I don't know. You're right. What goes on in your home? But I do know that you have had several attempts, if not more, trying to kill yourself. The scar tissue has built up on itself on your stomach, your thighs, your upper legs, your arms, under the armpits, and now your wrists. So you have tried to end this life many times from the death and the scar tissue that's on each of the sites for the wounds. It's apparent that even as a young child there was something going on in your life that you wanted to stop. And it is apparent that you couldn't stop it. So you chose the best way, in your opinion, to stop it. And that way, young lady, was to kill yourself. Again, Shannon flipped her eyes over towards him. Look, you, whoever you are, Dr. Sweet or Sweat or whatever, I prefer not to talk to you. Give me my clothes. I'm going home. Let me get out of here. I am not going to some rehab center or some short-term care. I need to go home. So we just might as well settle that now. Well, Shannon, it's obvious you have been listening to our conversation, as I suspected all along. Let me briefly talk to you a moment before this conversation ends. This morning, as we talk, the van to take you to short-term care is already on the way. They'll be here momentarily. And you are going, young lady. We have a legal order to take you, voluntarily or involuntarily. Now, we prefer to take you voluntarily because getting the proper level of help is going to require you to be open to our help, or at least our offer of help. The man you will be meeting over there is a very aged, elderly, very doty, interesting, somewhat eccentric, crazy man, you might say. Seems to not know anything about anything. They call him Dr. Lawrence. He is going to be your primary caregiver as far as talking to you about those thoughts that are running your life. Again, he had flashed back and forth, and she tossed like she was having a seizure, to such a degree that Dr. Sweet jumped up and started to ring the bell, but then she stopped and she grabbed his hand when he grabbed the buzzer. Don't you dare ring that buzzer. Came a very deep voice, very different from the other voice that he'd heard before. Oh, all right. Since you put it that way, if you let me go and quit digging your nails into my wrists. Shannon withdrew her hand very abruptly, angrily, slammed it on the bed. Dr. Sweet sat down again. Now, you look here, young lady. We know a lot more about you than you think. And we know that there are a number of struggles inside of you, inner conflicts that no one knows about and that you don't understand, that seems to be running your life. Telling you how worthless you are, what a failure you are. Based on people I've worked with, it wouldn't surprise me if they're not already telling you that you messed up killing yourself. Immediately she turned back around, but her eyes were not angry. Tears came out the corner. How did you... I don't understand. How would you know that? Well, Dr. Sweet leaned over. I know that, dear, because I was in the same place you were years ago. A deep silence fell in over the room. Shannon began to slide up in the bed, somewhat to sit, pulled the sheet up over her. Dr. Sweet placed the pillows nicely behind her so she could sit more comfortably. You, Dr. Sweet, you have had these thoughts? Yes, dear. Yes, dear, I have. And I know exactly what you're going through. Maybe not exactly in your world, but in my world, it was horrible. Did, if I may ask, did your thoughts always tell you what a bad person you are and how no one loves you and just things that made you feel more and more sad? Uh, of course, dear. Of course, absolutely. I had the thoughts similar to yours since I was 5 years old, maybe earlier. But you know what, dear? I had them all the way up till I was in my 50s, maybe 60s. I don't want you to suffer like this, Shannon. And I'm not sending you really to what's a hospital place. Where I'm sending you is a place that has medical assistance, mild medication until we can get you stabilized. And Dr. Lawrence is going to be the primary person, just you and he, with a trained nurse to sit to make sure that everything is nice and legal, and you don't feel threatened by the man and you're not hurt. And he's going to tell you and talk to you and help you get hold of these things that are running your life. Now, does that sound so bad? Shannon turned her head and began to sob a little bit. Oh, I don't believe, Doctor, I could believe such a thing could happen. Well, dear, it's going to happen. And it's going to all depend on how willing you are going to cooperate and how much you really want to heal. A long pause. Dr. Sweet noticed her body suddenly became extremely rigid again. Her arms began to fold as if she was a supervisor and was going to set matters straight with somebody she was employer for. He had flashed back, and her eyes again were furious, and the hand began to ball up in a fist as she looked at Dr. Sweet. Again, the very deep voice came out. Let me tell you something, Dr. Sweet, or whatever your name is, or whoever you think you are. You don't know anything about us. You don't know how we live. You don't know what's going on, and how dare you think you can just do what you want with us. She needs to go home. She needs to do her chores. She needs to get back into the routine. And no doctor or police officer is going to stop us. Do you understand? Why, yes. Yeah, I believe I do. The look in her eye looked very confused that Dr. Sweet would even respond in a conversational tone rather than reciprocate in anger. I think I understand better than you believe I do, and I am sorry for your pain. I am sorry for these things, but you know what? If you will allow Dr. Lawrence just to talk with you, he's not going to fix you. He wants to just talk with you and understand what has caused this pain, and together I believe you guys may be able to work this out. Is that asking too much for you in view of the fact that all these years it's gotten worse? I know you think that Shannon's not doing very well, but you know what? Everybody struggles with the same kind of problems that you guys are struggling with. There's no agreement how to solve it. There's all types of multiple blame about how it happened. And it just goes on and gets deeper and deeper until someone decides that this has to be over with, that they're not going to keep hurting us. And the person often, from my experience, that continually does the hurting seems to get away with it. So, if I could just have someone help me by saying, we'll give it a try, I'm ready to roll with this. I believe we can make a difference. 10, 15, 20 seconds went by, and the body began to relax. And Shannon turned around, and it was her soft face again, and she said, I think, Dr. Sweet, that I want to go to the rehab, or the short-term place. I think I want to meet this Dr. Lawrence, and we'll just see. Indeed we shall, dear. I believe the van is here from what I see at the nurse's window. Give me a second, and I'm going to come see you over there, if that's all right. Oh, would you? please, that would be very nice. Of course I would. Of course I would. Dr. Sweet walked out of the room. He began to get everything ready, and the transportation was sitting outside to take her over. Shannon began to hear the voices again. We're not exactly going to agree with you, Shannon. You've botched this up too many times, but I will say it's the first time someone has been willing to look beyond the cuts and maybe stop listening to all the excuses and help us. So I'm going to give us some slack here. Yes. Let's go over to the center and see what they got going for them. There's no promises here, but you know what? If we have to return to the wrist the next time we cut, young lady, it will be final. Do you hear me? Well, this concludes our LifeSpark theater presentation for today, entitled Meet Your Family. And we are going to leave you at this point where Shannon is en route to the new short-term facility and her appointment to meet Dr. Lawrence. As you have already encountered in our brief story here, that there are some strange things indeed going on, and remember the advice. Denial is a terrible thing. It is a door through which you can either feel secure by not facing reality, which really is not security, because the pain continues, or it is a door which you yourself can open and face whatever lies beyond it with the promise of healing at the other end. And with that thought, we're going to leave you today, and our LifeSpark presentation will close with this thought. Only you can get off the carousel of pain and suffering and stop doing what was always done. And only you can make a difference in your tomorrow. Until the next time that we meet in LifeSpark Theater presentation, we look forward and we suggest